right? And they would so he'd kill people as a way of worshiping this God, right? And Jesus is saying, they're saying, see, he works for that God. And Jesus is saying, are you really that stupid? Right? He's saying, look, I'm not sacrificing people. I'm making them whole again. I'm not killing people. I'm raising them from the dead. Right? I'm bringing them back to life. How could I ever be working for that God if worship of that God's about killing people and I'm about saving people? Right? He's saying, man, I'm completely different than that God that that the pagans worshipped. Right? He's saying, I'm here to restore and to heal and rebuild. In fact, then he says that passage about going into, what does he say about he says, no one can enter a strong man's house to plunder his property unless he first ties up the strong man. Right? Well, when people would die in the old days, they would actually, instead of burying them in the ground like this, they would build like a little house to put their bodies in, right? And they may put 5, 6, 7, 8 people's bodies in that one little house, right? And they would come to that house, and they would, on certain days of the year, they would come there and they would picnic. They'd come and bring some food, and they'd sit around and they would talk about the people who had died. They would remember them, and they'd think about them, right? But it was all these little, and so they called it like a city of the dead. Because there were all these little houses all over the place. Looked like a little city. But there was nobody living there. Because they're all dead. And what Jesus is saying is, he goes, nobody can enter a strong man's house to plunder his property. What does it mean to plunder his property? To steal his property. What Jesus is saying is this. Death came into the world because of the devil. Right? Because he tricked Adam and Eve and he convinced them to sin. And because of sin, the punishment is we have to die. But Jesus is saying, yeah, and when you die, you end up in those houses. And that strong man he's talking about is who? The devil. He's saying it's because of the devil that you end up in those houses. He's like, but I'm going to plunder. I'm going to tie him up. I'm going to enter his house. And I'm going to plunder his property. What's he talking about? He's going to go into the devil's house. He's going to steal all of his property, which is what? And he's going to take him to heaven. Right? So that's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, look, I am so different from that God that they were worshiping. That God isn't even a God. It's the devil, he's saying. Right? And he's saying, I'm going to come and I'm going to steal everything. I'm going to take back everything he stole from me. And I'm going to take it with me to heaven. Right? That's what he's saying about it. So that's why in the psalm it says, sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous deeds. There's a book that we use of prayers that's called the Breviary. And we pray these prayers every day. We have the responsibility to pray these prayers. And one of the prayers talks about, Lord, when you made the universe, when you created the world, when you made trees and mountains and sky and the sun and the stars and the oceans, you were awesome. Right? God's pretty awesome making all that stuff, isn't he? But you like the trees? Okay. But what the prayer goes on to say is, but you're more awesome, God. You're more awesome. Because after we messed it all up, you came to take us back. See how that works? Isn't that more awesome? God made all this wonderful stuff, and we messed it up through sin, and God's still going to take us back. Right? He's still going to go into the devil's house, tie him up, plunder his property, right? And take us all back. Right? That's why we have such hope. That's why even though we're sad, because we really would like Jedi to be with us, we're also very hopeful. It says, sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous deeds. Saying we haven't even seen them all yet. But we know, we trust, he's going to do marvelous deeds. You know? You know, God told Abraham, when he was telling Abraham that he was going to make him a father of many, 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 many children, God told Abraham to go outside, look up at the sky, and count how many stars there are. Right? He said, that's how many kids you're going to have. That's how many children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, and everything else, right? Well, when Abraham went outside, how many stars do you think he saw? You know what? He only saw one. Because it was daytime. Look up. How many stars do you see? 1. The sun's a star, George. Yeah, you don't want to look at the sun. But you only see 1 in the daytime, right? But are there stars up there? Yeah, there's a lot of stars up there. You just can't see them, can you?
Like the moon.
Right? And that's like God's promises. God says, I'm going to do this for you. I promise you. You can't see it yet. But it's there. It's already been done.
You should have waited till nighttime.
That's right. That's right. But we're going to wait. We're going to wait, and we're going to see God's promises come about, right?
Wait the stars when it...
He actually did wait till nighttime. He knelt down outside and had to cut up some animals. We talked about that the other day. That was the same day. The same day he had to kneel down and cut up those animals, right? But we know that God's going to come and enter these houses and take back our lives, take back our loved ones, and bring us all to heaven with him.